Hi, this is the first in a series of videos about reconnecting with nature, which is really about reclaiming our place in nature and developing a living relationship with nature, which means that when we look at nature, we realize there's intelligent beings looking back. And this is something that the ancients lived and practiced. They didn't have to think about it. It was the way they lived. But it is something we have forgotten through colonization, patriarchy, capitalism. Nature became something that was an object to be exploited. But it is fundamental to reconnecting, to healing, and to our work.
We're not just looking in at nature, we are nature. And I think that's the thing that as a modern society we've really disconnected from and forgotten about, even though it's the way that our ancestors lived in this world in order to survive. And in a way we've decided somehow, well, we believe that we can survive without this connection to nature. But in fact, it's being thrown in front of us, and we can't really ignore it anymore, that we can't. We're heading straight for a brick wall. So the idea of reconnecting to nature and re-knotting that deep intuitive connection that we have with it is more than just for fun. It really is important for our survival. And as many of the people that listen to our work and follow our work are practitioners of some form, using plant medicine of some form, it's even more important that the place that comes from, when you're working with plants and healing with plants in whatever form it is that you use, that it comes from a place of true connection and resonance with the world that the plants come from, which is the natural world, which is where we come from too.
And we are nature at all levels. You know, the molecules that we're made of were the molecules of plants before we were born. And even as we eat, we incorporate these molecules. The genes, the structures, the receptors, a lot of them exist in other beings and other, such as plants and animals. So at all these levels, you know, in the way we breathe the air, the oxygen that is made by plants, at all these levels, we are deeply interwoven. And so we're sort of dialed in at this level of our consciousness, and this is one of the tricks the ego plays, is that sense of separateness, that certain senses actually enhance more than others. You know, vision is a distant sense, hearing is a distant sense, but smell and touch and our intuitive sense, there isn't that distance. There is that sense that we are inevitably and unavoidably connected. And at all these levels, we can tune in. And so already a long time ago, the Gaia hypothesis was made, that you realize, okay, there's my consciousness, there's the consciousness of another being, a tree, an animal, and all of a sudden you zoom out more and more. It's sort of like zooming out on a fractal. The relationships are often the same, and just because we in our daily ego mind can't see it, it doesn't mean that at all these levels there isn't conscious communication and connection happening at all the time.
And just in the way that our psyche is very complex and isn't just the analytical mind that we've made into some kind of God, but involves motion, spirituality or spirit, and mind, the connection with nature is also a myriad of different resonances and different ways of being. And the more we become nature, the more the magic can happen in the world, because magic comes when matter in a way opens itself up, and we're so connected to the matter that is nature that we understand on an intuitive, deep cellular level our way of navigating within that world. And once we resonate at that level with nature, it becomes not just a host, but a guide from within. And that's where, as I said, it can open up and hand us the most magical experiences if we're willing to recognize them.
And some people may say, well, I can't hear trees speaking, and therefore they don't speak. And that's really, again, a limitation. You could imagine another human culture where there's a language that you don't understand. It doesn't mean there isn't communication going on, and more research and more evidence shows how deeply trees talk with each other, different plants and species talk with each other constantly, and not just sort of in the survival exchanging bits of energy, but really some people even think that trees gossip, that there's this healthy communication that we're inviting you and reminding you to reconnect with, even if it's a language we have to remember.
And just as I said, the psyche of the human and the psyche of the world are a microcosm, a macrocosm of each other. We see this in the physical layout of the world and the physical layout of our own humanness in, for example, the meridians that in Chinese medicine are recognized within the human body. We have ley lines, and the Aborigines have what they called song lines. There's also the weave, which is where the sacred waters flowed. So these lines, these magnetic lines on the earth that the ancients recognized, and didn't just recognize, but they used. Animals use them for tracking, for knowing where they're going. These are sort of like a map, like the meridians in our body are a map of the body. These are a map of the world. And it is in this recognition of this intelligence that we're all part of that we can heal. It's in the recognition of the intelligence of nature that we can recognize our own intelligence, which isn't what we think it is. It isn't just left brain analytical thinking, things that can be measured on a microscope. Our real true wisdom is related to the unseen realms. It's related to this connection to the world, to nature. It's related to our intuition, to a knowing that we can't measure, that we can't say, this is true because it's like this. And the only way we can know it is by connecting. And we can't really share it. It's not something we can share through myth. We can share through writing our experiences and using words to conjure up what happened. But the deep knowing of it, we cannot share. And that's why I think, in a way, it's been we've disconnected from ourselves, because we got to a point in the so-called evolution of humanity where it had to be tested, it had to be proven for it to be real. But we've come full circle, and now somehow we know, deep inside ourselves, we know that we really need to reconnect.
And this is also very hopeful to me, because often it's easy to think, oh, the problems in the world are so huge and overwhelming. What could little me do to change? But inside of us, we can reconnect, and that we can do no matter who or where we are. And if each of us reconnect, it ripples out, and that's what really heals and changes the whole world. And a friend of mine a long time ago said that illness is forgetting, and this forgetting is fundamentally forgetting our place and our connectedness. And healing is remembering, restoring the membership, restoring the connection between us and everything else.
So on a practical level, one of the things that I was very lucky with in my life was that I grew up in a town in Essex in England that happened to have one of the oldest and largest turf labyrinths in Europe. And these ancient labyrinths aren't mazes where you get lost. They're laid out, they're geometric, and they're laid out. And I always loved this place, and I've used it all my life as a place to find my center. So I'll go to the labyrinth and ask a question and be guided around the labyrinth. I think it's about a mile in and a mile out. And on the way out, I let go of my question and I just allow the earth in this circular journeying around it to hand me what I need in terms of replies to the question or whatever it might be. And when I've been traveling through my life and I felt lost, when I tune into that place, because it's a sacred place and it's a place I've honored all my life, I feel that geometric, earth-based, ancient place within me. It's like I've walked it into me. And so even though I'm not necessarily with it, its wisdom and its anchoredness and its centeredness still helps me. So I think on a practical level, it's really important to find sacred place. Here in Taos, New Mexico, we have recently found a new sacred place, a place we'd often wanted to go and visit, that was hidden away and very, very near us, actually. And we were offered a very, very special gift by the earth when we went into that place, which made me realize that this was one of the most powerful places and gave me a sense of belonging here in New Mexico. So I think it's very important to find sacred place, and I invite you, in a way, even if you're in a city and it's a park where there's a tree that you resonate with, that you can sometimes go and light a little candle and leave a little offering, but you go regularly. Finding sacred place, tuning into sacred place and feeling it, the connection, feeling it within you, even when you're not there, is extremely important in this healing journey that we're on as humanity. So if you want to share, if you have already a sacred place, or you found a sacred place after hearing this video and you want us to know about it, share with us. Go on to AromaGnosis.com and write us an email. I promise you we'll get back to you. But I think it's really important. And we're going to be carrying on with this little series. This is just an opening. Because I think it is vital that we all together help each other realize the importance and the ways in which it's easy actually to reconnect. We're lucky. The earth is still here. It's suffering. There's a lot of damage. There's a lot of wasteland. We could call it wasteland. It's where we've forgotten the myth. We've forgotten the magic. But we can still reconnect. And by reconnecting, we can bring back to life those places that feel abandoned, because beholding is healing.
And conversely, I wanted to go back a little bit. When I lived in New York over 20 years ago in the city, I remember as I was trying to meditate, trying to imagine the ground under me, and I was on the 10th floor and I didn't know how many basements there were and how many subway tunnels under that. And it was really disorienting. There was no way to get a bearing. Almost every square inch is paved over. And so I realized at the time already working with clients that, when you give someone a medication or give them a treatment so that they're okay in this very imbalanced environment, I think that's unethical. I think you got to say, well, you have to get out. There's no pill I can give you or no treatment I can give you that should make it okay for you to feel this disconnected. That's unethical. So I think sometimes a geographic cure, sometimes writing a prescription for saying go in nature is more powerful than any pill or other treatment I could offer. So this is really foundational. It is no longer the time to cover up symptoms, including the symptom of being disconnected in a place that we shouldn't be in or where we cannot reconnect with nature.
Exactly. So lots of love. And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at AromaGnosis.com.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.